Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How are you doing, Phil? Phil is muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. You're so excited you forgot to unmute yourself.
That's true, but hopefully you can edit that out, or it'll just be a cute little thing.
I think I'd rather it be a cute little thing.
Okay,
we all love the cute little things, but given that I have the power of the edit this week, we'll see what I feel like at the time. In the meantime, please send your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback@songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And just before we get to tonight's guest, our songwriting challenge this year, of course, is to write a song in unusual mode, or a mode you're not familiar with. And we're leaving that open to your interpretation, whatever that means to you. And of course, we have a resource page on our website, songtalk.ca. You'll see in the sidebar, Songwriting Challenge 2023. Click on that. There's a bunch of videos. There's a couple of graphical, infographic type things. There's a few articles. There's a lot of stuff you can look at and learn yourself up before launching into writing a song. Because I think for this one especially, you may want to do some research if modal writing is not within your wheelhouse necessarily, which I'm guessing even for me, when I know my music theory pretty well, but like I've been saying, like I've written modal songs by accident. I've done modal interchange a lot by accident, just because it sounded good, but I've never deliberately on purpose picked a mode and written a song in that mode. So this is a new thing for me too.
Doing things intentionally is a great way of learning, as opposed to just stumbling about, which is what I've always done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stumbling about for the mute button, for example. Right, Phil?
Yes, and in fact, I've even unmuted even when I'm laughing.
Yes, exactly. Okie dokie. And tonight, we are happy to welcome the return of indie soul artist Jeremy Voltz. And here's a little taste of his new song, Miracles.
Take my place. I'm not staying. I won't fall, 'cause I believe in miracles. Yeah, I believe in miracles. See my face, keep on praying. Or did you call? 'Cause I believe in miracles. Yeah, I believe in miracles. There's no time to think about it. Won't hold back at all. 'Cause I believe in miracles.
Burnout mathematician turned indie soul artist, Jeremy Voltz's music is inspired by thinking deeply about the people in his life and what he'd love to have the courage to say to them. Reminiscent of Jeff Buckley, Hozier, and Stevie Wonder, he has a voice that is powerful and haunting. As a vocalist, Voltz has toured the UK, Italy, Japan, Mexico, and across the US and Canada. His lyrics are universal and heartfelt, and his songs have been featured in film and television. His acoustic anthem, One Day at a Time, has garnered millions of worldwide listeners and inspired a successful children's book. His debut full-length album, Weekender, just won Album of the Year at the Ontario Folk Music Awards. Jeremy is releasing his second full-length album throughout 2023 with the help of Factor. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Jeremy Voltz.
It's good to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show again, and congratulations on your award with the who was it with again?
Yeah, it was the Ontario Folk
Music Awards. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It was a complete shock, and then I had to give a speech, but I didn't prepare one because I was sure I wasn't going to win, and it was a whole thing. It was great.
Always be prepared with a speech. You just never
Yeah, I was
know.
not.
Was the work especially folksy? Because I don't really think of your stuff as being folksy.
That album was, yeah, more folky, because it was so that album, it was my first album. So here is the whole overview. The song you just heard, Miracles, is off an upcoming album, and I've been working on that album with my producer friend Oliver in Montreal since like 2018. And then COVID hit, and I couldn't really go to Montreal to continue working on this. And I was sort of bored, and, as we all were, and my band was around and recording at home and stuff. So I kind of made an album in the middle of making an album, and that album was way folkier. It was the stuff that my band's been playing for years. Very organic album, and it was awesome, and really happy with it. And yeah, it won album of the year, which was great.
That's fantastic. You're very versatile then. You open to different styles. I'm sure they all sound like Jeremy Voltz songs. The DNA is still the same.
I appreciate that. I don't ever feel that way, and it's a blessing. It's a curse more than it's a blessing. In like, who am I?
Yeah.
It's very hard as an artist.
Well,
That's such a good question, because you can do everything that sounds exactly like the same, which in some ways gives people exactly what they want, but then you don't want to be too stale. It's hard to find that balance,
And what's interesting, like, I like working with other people. Like Miracles, I worked with Oliver on. That was the first song we did together, and I loved it because he surprised me. And the things he added were surprising, and we came up with surprising stuff. It's like, ooh, this gives me chills on my spine. There's a new sound. I've never heard this. I want that to be in the world. But then it's like, well, if you're always chasing what surprises you, you never sound like what you've done before, which is interesting.
Yeah, and as musicians, as producers, as music people, like workers, as such, we don't like to label ourselves. We don't like to put ourselves in these particular boxes and say, I'm a folk artist, or I'm an R&B artist, or I'm this and that and the other. And you want to be flexible enough. But I think fans kind of have expectations too.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Miracles. How did the songwriting process go on this?
Yeah, so I did this program called. This is going to be a longer story of the
Sure.
world of Miracles. I did this artist entrepreneurship program at a place called Canada's Music Incubator. It's in Toronto, and awesome organization. It's like an 8-week course. And I did this in 2018. And there was this guy from Quebec, from Montreal, Oliver Charles there. And I was like, I don't think I like this guy. He's like so attractive. He works out all the time. He's like a pop star kind of guy. I'm like, he's not, I'm the nerdy math D&D guy. It's like, I don't think we have anything in common. But on the last day, and we like talked a bit, but on the last day, he was like, hey, I'm playing a festival. Why don't you come open for me in Quebec and stay on my couch, and maybe we'll like work on some music. And I was like, man, like a week with this guy, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I like this guy, like that's a week on his couch. I was like, screw it. I'm not doing anything else. Let's try it. How bad could it be? And like we got along so well, and he's like, I want to try like a darker sound with these. He's like, you're doing this folk stuff, it's cool, but like you've got this like grit to your voice that I think would be really fun. And so Miracles was the first song we did, and we listened to the demo at the end of that week, and we were like, man, we got to make more music. This is crazy. Like I've never really heard anything like this before. I just felt like it was so original and new. And so we did a full album over that time, but Miracles was the start of it. And the song is about, he's a pop guy. So he broke me out of my songwriting habits, which I have many of, just even the beginning of that song. It's like line, like, take my place, and then nothing. I'm not staying. Nothing. Like I don't do that. I fill with lyrics, right? You know what I mean? Like it's just like boom, lyrics. And he's like, yeah, just give it space, let the instrumental bloom. And it's like, oh man, cool. So
are you generally a lyrics guy first? And in this case, Oliver came up with music bed first. Is that?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm all over the place, but usually I'm lyrics and melody at the same time. And I wait to go to an instrument as far as possible because it's like if you can sing it in the shower and it's catchy without any instruments or anything, then it's good. So I'm usually melody and lyrics first. But this one, so what was interesting is he was like, play me some demos, what do you got? And I played some things. And actually the song that inspired Miracles, I probably played at the Song Talk meetup at the Transac. I think I did, friggin' in 2017 or 16 or something like that. And I played him that demo and he's like, okay, yeah, this is all not great, but this part of the song is really good. It was like this pre-chorus in that demo. He's like, that's great. And then so we sort of used that to then build the instrumental around it and then started crafting lyrics on top of it, which is interesting. I actually dug up that demo, which is neat. I can maybe play it.
That's a great suggestion because sometimes if we write a song and we love it, and sometimes you have a certain part that's really, really good, but frankly, the rest of the song is really weak.
Yeah.
So take the part that's great, blow out that weak stuff, and then just write a new song that reflects that great stuff. And I think that's how you get great songs, just
Exactly.
because if you have a great chorus and a weak verse, then do different verses,
Oh yeah, always rewrite it because you can always go back to what you had before. But also it's like having that other person too, because you're close to it. When you've written something, you're close to it, and you're like, yeah, I think I do like that, and you're like, well, no, you don't, but you're used to it.
Or you like it for different reasons that maybe aren't as clear cut and obvious to another listener or to and by virtue of that to generally anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's a real trap to fall in when you like something because you're proud of it. You're like, oh, that was really clever, like, oh, that turn of phrase or like that way of saying that, and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean it's compelling to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, that, and so that's also really hard.
Well, and that's a whole other bigger question. Like, who are you writing for? Are you writing to please yourself first? Are you writing to please your producer? Are you writing to please your fans? Are you writing to get new fans?
Yeah.
Or you're writing to everyone so everyone hates it. Like what's like, who are you
and
writing for?
every song's sort of different, right? Sometimes you start it and you're like, this one's just for me and nobody else will like this. It depends on the song. Some songs you're like, you write a few lines and you're like, this is timeless and universal and this will be for the world and everyone will love this and I've got to make it that. I feel like the song sort of lets you know as you start writing it generally what it wants to be. But this stuff, when Oliver and I were writing, we were just like children playing in a playground. Like we didn't think about anyone else. It was just us like delighting each other with cool musical ideas, which is fun. That's so fun. And you can hear the fun that we had in the track.
So the little germ of an idea he pulled from your demo, the pre-chorus part, was that just the melody? Was it the lyric? What was it about it that he pulled out?
I'll pull it up. Tell me if you can hear this. So don't judge this. This is like 2016 Jeremy learning to use like Logic, right? Can you hear this?
I'm soaring over top of the earth and I'm not gonna come down soon. I gotta fly in this jet stream, baby. I gotta fly in this jet stream, baby.
So that's the idea of that. It's like a weird 80s synthwave kind of a thing. And what we
drowning in reverb.
Drowning in reverb. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. And okay, let's see. Can you hear the piano? So there's this repeating thing. This like, and that he was like, "Can you play that on guitar?" And if you listen to Miracles, that's like sort of the main.
It's the main bed of everything, yeah.
But on acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
So we took that, and then there's this like pre-chorus that he was like, "That's great." Here, I think. Where? I'll find it.
There's no time to think about it. I can't.
Just that much, like there's no, and he's like, oh man, if we actually punch those, like we make those punchy, like dun dun dun, but dun 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 dun, I won't hold back at all. So we just kept sort of building on that, and that's all we took from that song, and then completely scrapped everything else. Yeah, which is
Wow.
cool. Yeah, it's neat. That was probably the first time that I really like completely Frankenstein something like that.
Yeah,
Just
and
kinda-
when you do it, you're like you kind of question it. It's like, is this right? Is this going to be good? Is this going to work? And you in the back of your mind, you go, I can always go back, right? But you push it forward, and then you almost have to come back to it. You almost have to like come back to it a couple of days later, enough time for you to forget the original song, and then appreciate what you've done new for its own sake.
What helped? What I think what helped was like me being like, oh, I don't really like this song that I've done. I was like, this is I tried a thing and I'm like, it's not great. And then for Oliver to be like, oh, you know what? Actually, that part's really cool. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that part is really cool. Like you don't believe it until somebody else kind of like.
But that's another interesting question. Like when you sat down with him and he said, "Show me some demos," you picked a song you didn't like. You took a production you didn't like.
Yeah, well, at that time I was really early in my career. I didn't have a lot of songs. I probably had a folder of like 10 things, and some of them were, I was cringy a little bit. But that's what you have when you're first starting out and you haven't recorded much.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So then in building the rest of it, then because like on your lyric sheet available at soundcloud.ca on the show post, folks, on your lyric sheet, you both of you are credited as writers.
Yeah.
So
we
what was the
co-wrote it,
collaboration
split
like?
it 50-50 on that, which is kind of the Nashville split style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he produced it, and he was a fledgling producer at the time, and he kind of like geared up for this and just knocked it out of the park. He just has better ears than I do. Like I'm like, yeah, that sounds fine, and he's like, shh. He's like, I'm placing it over here, this much reverb, like dialing it in. He's just like a technician, and like he can just hear better than I can. So it was awesome working with him. And like sometimes I just be like, should I leave you alone? And he's like, yeah. And then he'd just take like 2 hours in a dark room by himself and just like make it sound amazing, while I would just like go out and read a book.
But that's the way things used to be. You had the artist who would go in and do the artist, and then you had the mixer and the producer who would do the mixing and the producing. And there's that division of labor and division of skill. And if you can make use of that, because Jeremy, you're probably better spent time writing music and performing, as opposed to, I can learn how to mix. Well, you can, but
I since have, because and I've done now like commercial work and jingles and stuff like that, and I'm good now at producing, but back then I was not, as you heard from that terrible.
And it's also the job of a good producer to get a good performance from the artist.
And he's amazing at that. Like, and I wouldn't have worked with other people, but like there were some lines where we probably did 20, 30 takes, and he was so particular with the placement, and he was just having fun playing around with my voice. Cause like, I'm like primarily a vocalist. That's my thing. And so I love a challenge when he's like, can you do it like this? And it's like, yeah, I can do it like that. And so we would just really like, he'd really push me, and I like loved that. Nobody's ever done that. Usually you get into a session, do a few takes, people are like, sounds great. Yeah, I love it. But he'd be like, yeah, it's good. But like, what about this? And I loved that process.
So what about the rest of the song? Like you said, the verse is not something you would have written had you not collaborated with Oliver, right? So how did that work?
And then the chorus is, to me, like the hook of this song, is it's super weird. Yeah, can we talk some music theory stuff?
Yeah.
Let's.
Cool. I am not a piano player, but it's interesting because the song is in E flat minor. You can hear that. Cool.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure it out earlier today, and I was like, yeah, E flat minor.
Yeah, so it's E flat minor, and the chorus goes, and so it's interesting because if I play this on acoustic guitar, here are the chords I play and the melody I sing. So, and then this line is weird. which is I play C diminished chord over that, and then B flat 7 for the resolve. So yeah, so you got this E minor, because I believe in.
Yeah,
That's
because you're really departing to a strangely other place before you come back to home.
Yeah.
Home-ish.
Yes.
With the B flat.
So what's interesting is we had these chords, we had that melody. Like I went for a walk and came up with that chorus melody. We had a completely different chorus that was more pop and kind of like sort of what you'd expect. And then I came up with that and we were like, what is that? But and I know exactly enough music theory to after I've written something be like, okay, what did I do? But I can't use the music theory to create. I can only use it to explain what I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is the best way to be. So
yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah, and so we're like,
yeah,
and so we're like, okay, cool. That's what we've done. We came up with this melody, but we had this. There's a really like heavy distorted synth bass in that song that is doing, and we wrote it, and so it's doing like, and then the next note, it goes here. And that note, which is on the weird chord, is a C sharp. So the bass is playing a C sharp, and the chord over it is a C diminished.
Wow.
Horrible. Like these are not notes that should ever go together. But what's interesting is like, and we realized that we were like, should the bass play this? Like it doesn't fit with what's above it. But this interesting thing happens where if your instruments sound far enough away from each other sonically, bass is really gritty and it's a really singable line. This like that's a nice bass line. And other things can be doing things that clash horribly, but if they're not sharing the same space so that you don't really hear and register that clash, it can work fine. And that was a really cool lesson from that song where it's like, oh yeah, these notes should not be together. It works fine. Yeah.
It reminds me of a songwriting challenge I did several months ago. There's a YouTuber, Andrew Wang.
He's in Toronto. He's in Toronto.
Yeah, I think he is in Toronto, and he posed this challenge where I forget what it was. It was a 13 chord with a flat 7 and a sharp 4 or something like that. But the easier way to think about it was, if you're on the piano at least, a major chord in the left hand and a major chord a tone higher in the right hand.
Yeah.
And of course, in his video, when he was talking about it, he demonstrated it. If he put them both in the same octave, it's a mess. But if you spread it apart 1 octave, it sounds like this beautiful, really rich, lush, dare to say jazz chord, but it is a jazz chord, right? And his challenge was use that chord somewhere in a song where it's not the end chord of a song, which is the way he's always heard it at the end of a jazz piece. They always do that.
So the challenge was to use it as like a passing chord somewhere in the song.
Yeah, use a passing chord, or just not as a resolving chord, in other words, because he always heard it
not as your one.
Yeah. Pretty much not as your one. So
it's major on both sides, or is it major and a minor?
It's major. I think he even demonstrated like what happens if you do major and minor, and then minor and major, and minor and minor. But his specific challenge was major. So like a C major in your left hand, a D major in your right hand, an octave apart.
That, yeah, nice.
Which if you fold the octave in a little bit, then it becomes essentially like a 13 chord with some accidentals.
Yeah, if they're played in the same octave, you get that. Yeah, which not great, but that. It's very nice. Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting, and it's very interesting. You led from melody, because it's the melody of the OOOs that make it interesting and catchy, and then you catch the melody first, and then I was like, wait a minute, something really weird is going on here.
And I grew up in the height of like Max Martin writing, And Max Martin does the major to minor modal interchange like all the time. Like, you know, his songs, like the verses will be minor and then the chorus lifts to the major of that. Not the
relative
major, but the
parallel.
not the relative major, but the actual major.
The parallel, yeah.
Yeah, the parallel. So you get a mode interchange. And so that sound, I think we're just all really used to, and I love that. And that's sort of what's happening.
And pop music doesn't do that anymore.
Not
very
often.
much. Not very often. Like really mainstream pop music is a loop that's 1/6/4/5 more often than not. It seems.
Why don't we listen to the whole track and then get back to it?
Yeah, and listen and listen for that chorus, the OOOs, because it's I mean, in terms of a chorus, it's a really simple chorus. It's OOOs. It's not a lot of lyric, but theoretically and melodically and chord stuff, it's really, really fascinating.
One thing to also listen for is how few repetitions there are. There's very few repetitions in this song. Like a lot of pop music, you know, they'll repeat, you know, they'll have one, you know, melody A, and then melody B, then melody C is really melody A, you know, that kind of repetition. There's almost no repetition in this song at all. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Miracles.
Take my place. I'm not staying. I won't fall, 'cause I believe in miracles. Yeah, I believe in miracles. See my face, keep on praying. Or did you call? 'Cause I believe in miracles. Yeah, I believe in miracles. There's no time to think about it. Won't hold back at all. 'Cause I believe in miracles. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause I believe. I'm no angel, I won't lie or try to sanctify, but I'll embrace life worth saving. It's all I can do, 'cause I believe it. There's no time to think about it. I believe in miracles. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause I believe. Oh, oh, 'cause I believe in miracles.
Cool. And really short.
Super short. Now, I wanted to ask about that.
You could have done a bridge, another chorus after that. We would have been perfectly happy.
So was that shortness on purpose? I mean, did you think we needed to make it that short for, you know, TikTok or what have you?
Yeah,
It's too long for TikTok.
Yeah, it's true. We did make it short because we were like, well, this is a pop song, but actually we had it longer. We had other parts to the song, and then
Was there a bridge?
This wasn't really. There was sort of like a down bridge, like a middle eight kind of breakdown sort of thing. Not a harmonically different bridge, like using the same ideas, but just kind of like a lower energy. And then we were like, no, like the short and sweet thing's nice. It's like weird and haunting, and then you're out and you're like, what was that? I want to hear that again. It's just a strange sonic landscape that we've created there.
And there's enough hooks in there that you want to hear it again.
Yeah. It's yeah, I
Crazy.
really like it, and it gets stuck in my head. In that
Oh,
part
totally.
is so strange. Yeah,
And even though the Phil, you're saying like there's no repetition, but there is. I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. Comes up the end of the verse, the end of the pre-chorus, the middle of the chorus, kind of. The end of the chorus, like it pops up in
yeah,
in relatively predictable places, actually. But yeah, like this
But not in
the
the same way. Like even if you look at the first or the last two lines of the verse,
yeah
because I can believe in miracles, you would think they would go, because I believe in miracles. It seems like a line that you would repeat.
Mhm.
yeah
But even that line is not repeated. It's, that is the last line is delivered completely different. And even in the pre-chorus, we have that hooky part where there's no time to think about it. I won't hold back at all. I think the tendency would be to actually repeat those two lines again,
and
yeah
yeah,
but
might
it
be yeah
doesn't,
no
and it's like the only thing that really repeats sort of that close together is the chorus. And even that, um, and you don't like, even like, because I believe in miracles isn't done that much. It's like, I've been wondering a lot about modern songwriting and how it is changing. And I'm wondering, is the standard repetition that I grew up on, is that no longer done anymore? Or, it's
Mhm.
weird.
well they're saying, like, you listen to Rick Beato's breakdown of Spotify songs, top 10 whatever, there's no bridges anymore. It's all kind of, it's not even verse chorus, it's like chorus chorus
Mhm. Well, I mean,
and rap.
and like there is, you know, I think beginner songwriters have a habit of making songs try to do too many things. It's like a song just needs to do one thing really well.
Hmm.
That's it. It doesn't need to, and even like a sort of storytelling or more kind of lyric based song. It's like it doesn't have to go on a huge journey with emotional. I was angry and now I'm sad, and then I was happy, but then I got sad again. Like, I mean, it should have like one clear emotional tone, generally speaking, like have one point, one purpose. And I think, like, the more we just crystallize and clarify on a song, like kind of it's like, cool, that song does exactly that thing, and that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting approach, and actually it is in a lot of ways more challenging, because it's kind of easy to kind of throw everything at the wall and hopefully something sticks, as opposed to, I can get rid of all the, like you were saying at the beginning, I can get rid of all the crap that's not so good here and just keep the really, really golden stuff, and then I've found my focus for the song, whether it's a hook, whether it's a particular lyric, a particular, guitar lick, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
That's really the anchor to the song.
And
So for you, I think, I feel like it's, I mean, actually it is a number of things here. Your pre-chorus melody, you're clearly really proud of. Your OOOs is the absolute nugget of this song, and you only repeat that section twice.
yeah.
Choruses, most pop songs repeat 3-4 times. So that's really cool, because you leave us wanting more. um and that's kind of it. So in other words, did you not put much weight into the lyric writing then? Because there's no time to think about it. You even played that same line in your demo. It was literally picked from your demo, even lyric intact.
Yeah. So like the song lyrically was interesting. It was kind of about the that feeling where this guy invited me to stay on his couch, and me being like, yeah, like I'm gonna believe that this is gonna go well, but it doesn't have to. And it's like, yeah, like don't think about it, just do it. Like, so when we heard that, and we're like, oh, you know what? Actually, that line like kind of applies to you being here.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, let's write about that. Like, let's write about you coming. And I liked the idea of like, and as we're writing the song, we're like, this is good. And it was like, this is better than it should be for two random people who don't seem anything alike to get together and write music as a first song. I've done a lot of co-writing, and this was by far the most fun we'd had. And it was like, oh man, like, and so the idea of like a miracle, but Oliver's really into sports. It's like Miracle on Ice, kind of a miracle, where it's like, oh, it's a miracle that like the US beat the Soviet Union in 1980, like that sort of miracle, not a religious miracle, and I really liked that use of the idea of a miracle, and so we played with that, and then at some point we actually I wrote more lyrics that were a bit like kind of, I don't want to say anti-religious, but like I don't know, like a bit like trying to take that word back. And then we're like, no, let's smooth it out and just remove that. So it was a bit of,
I think it's fine.
we pushed it a little too far in that direction and then pulled it back. So the lyrics were a bit of a compromise.
I'm curious, was folk Jeremy Voltz kind of like, I can't have OOs in there, I need like real lyrical content?
Oh God, yeah. It was against every instinct inside of me, because I like, because my thing, if you know my song One Day at a Time, it's very conversational, and my lyrics are just like, it's, and they just go, like it flows, and there's a lot of them. And then for this, just be like, no, just say a few words and then pause. It was very hard. Or in the chorus, just not having words. It's like, oh, okay.
Right. But here's the thing, that this has come up in my mind. I think last time you were on the show, we talked about this too. This idea, and you were alluding to it with your focus on one idea thing, complexity versus simplicity, right? If you're going to have an OOOs, don't just climb up and down the major scale, mutate it in the middle, do some modular modal interchange, and climb down the melody in a completely different scale. You went up it and make it melodically interesting, because there's nothing in the lyric there. It's OOOs. Right? There's no complexity. There's no depth in the lyrics. So make it interesting in another way.
And it was the other way around. Like, I had the melody, and then I think I probably tried to put lyrics on it, but it's like, no, but that's weird enough. You only need one surprising thing at any time. Nobody can take multiple surprising things at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like, that melody is weird. Let people just receive that weirdness, without stacking things on top of it.
Yeah.
We try to do too many.
And if it ended up being like a synth line, or you whistling or something like that, like not even, because OOO sounds like a substitute word, like, or could be interpreted as this was a placeholder for lyrics. But if you were to whistle it, I don't know if anyone would feel that way, that it was a placeholder for lyrics. It was just essentially it's an instrumental line, right?
It is, but there was something that we really liked about the vocal presence of that. Like, there's something about the way it sounds, my voice in that range, and because there's also a harmony stack there in that weird key, and so like stacking the vocals, it just gave it this like sort of creepy quality. We're going for a little bit creepy with this song, just otherworldly, right? And so anything else, I don't think anything other than my voice would have done it there. Yeah.
Well, and what's great is that is a wonderful thing for the audience to sing along with. And the Hookers had a song where we'd go ooh, ooh, and we'd do that, and all the audience would be going ooh, ooh at the same time. It's a wonderful way of bringing the audience into it. And I think Lauren Taggart, who was on our show, and she mentioned that as well. Having like the oohs, it's so that people can just go ooh, 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 and sort of come along with the song, as opposed to just being passive, which, if you just had complicated lyrics or complicated time signatures, it wouldn't work.
Which I feel like you have this in here, because ooh, start on the 3. The melody starts, you expect it to start on the 1, but it starts on the 3, and then before the chorus you've got a 2/4 bar, I think, in there somewhere. And the whole thing shifts, right? So you guys are going to sing along, like, where do we come in? Where do we go? Oh, there it is. And you get it on the second ooh.
Yeah, there's like a big, like, before the last chorus, there's a big vocal stack on the like, oh, and the like big major 5, because I believe in miracles, back to the minor. And I love like that just big stack with the extra bar where you can just like sing it out is great. I love because if you're in a major key or a minor key, you can kind of do what you want with the 5 chord. It can be minor, and that's pretty common, right? And that, but I love the big major 5.
I feel like the major 5 in a minor key, I've been doing that for years. I feel like it's more common than you think. Like it's all over the place.
It feels very normal, like theatrical to me to do that.
Well, I mean, and even music theorists say that is, in a minor key, your major 5 is your dominant chord. It is the default dominant to go major in that thing, right? So yeah, absolutely.
And it's also like very prominent in Max Martin's writing too.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Okie dokie. Well, I really love the attention to detail you and your producer have put into this. Really,
You crammed a
awesome
lot,
stuff.
really, into 2 minutes and 28 seconds.
Yeah, and it's a big song, right? It's a song that you want to be like blasting at the highest volume that your speaker goes. It's just huge, and we tried to make this big thing. And it's the first, I should say, it was the first single off of what is a full length album, which is very cool. So we released that single. We were really excited to. It got picked up by Stingray on their Canadian indie channel and adult
Nice.
alternative channel, which was really great. They really liked that song.
When does the
And,
album drop?
the album will be in September. Dropping in
Oh,
September.
September. Okay, we'll definitely alert all listeners to that, and I'm looking forward to it myself. It's going to be amazing. Okay, I think we hear the band, so that is all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Jeremy Voltz. Wonderful to see you again,
Thank you,
Jeremy,
sir.
and awesome to check out your new music. Where can our listeners hear more?
JeremyVoltzMusic.com and Jeremy Voltz Music on Instagram, Facebook, and Spotify and Apple Music are my big ones.
How do you spell Volts?
Oh, that's great. Voltz, Voltz. Yes, it is my real name. It is German.
Of course. Check out the show post. We'll have links to Jeremy's stuff there. And we want to hear from you, our listeners. So please send your comments on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email the good old-fashioned way, feedback@songtalk.ca. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And please join us our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. That is where we met you, many years ago, Jeremy. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
PhilEmery.ca.
And Jeremy, what's your go-to social media? Is it Insta?
Yeah, let's go with Instagram. Jeremy Voltz Music on Instagram.
Perfect. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing.
You did it that time.
Yeah,
Sort of.
that was very in sync. Nice.
What a cool tune that is.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. That was awesome.
Is the rest of the album this like moody?
Yeah. Minus
Cool.
there's like one outlier that is just a summer dance track that we are releasing next.
Very
Which
smart.
is great. So that's coming out. But then the rest of it is like pretty weird and moody and dark.
Nice.
Yeah, which is like really fun and like theatrical and the synthy and yeah. It's
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you found a really good collaborator too.
yeah, we work so well together. It's awesome. We'll continue writing music forever.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I got to run
Yeah.
to this torturous hockey class.
Yeah,
Don't forget
enjoy
to
it.
don't forget to give 110%, and go out there and play the game, and you'll have a good bunch of guys.
Thanks,
and
Dad.
give 110%.
I'll give 110%.
That's what they say on the television. So
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much.
right, guys.
Till next time.
Yeah, we'll let you know when the podcast drops and the episode, and you can share it with all your peeps.
I'll share it.
Cool.
RNY.
awesome. All right.
All right, man. Good to see you again.
Hey, you
Have fun
too.
tonight.
Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.